Hey everyone, it's Chaz here. Gonna go over this new on-page optimization guide for local. I know there's some really good ones out there for, if you're doing an affiliate site or e-com or even a national site. Um, but there was kind of a lack in the local space for, what is the best practices, um, and at a high level too. So what we're looking at, not only adding some geo-relevancy, which is, imperative for ranking in local, um, but also some more of the advanced technical stuff that a lot of people just aren't really talking about. So that's what I put together here. We're just going to go through it. I'm not going to show you everything or give explanations for everything, but I'm going to try to cover it all in a pretty quick time. Might actually break it out into 2 or 3 different videos. But the first thing we're going to talk about is for local, if you have just a single location, optimize the home page. But if you're dealing with a multi-location site, you come into a realm that's a little bit, some SEOs will tell you you can do up to 5 pages to the 5 locations on the home page. I don't like that. If you have more than one location, I always optimize a location page. And the reason being is multiple. One is keyword prominence. All right. If you're talking about, 3 or 4 different locations, and some of those locations offer different niche services as well. So the example we're going to use is one of my old SEO and web design sites that I can actually show you. So in that case, some of our keywords would be like web design, SEO, online advertising. And we're going to do all those on one location page. But if I was trying to do 5 locations plus 4 niches or services, like that gets really hard to make your keywords as prominent as they need to be. And Google actually has a patent out there that talks about making your keywords prominent, putting them in H1s, putting them in H tags, bullet listing them, putting them in bold or italics. It makes it very difficult to do that when you're talking about multiple locations plus multiple services on one location page. So that's why I always break them out in location pages. Plus, it allows us to build location-specific citations, location-specific social accounts, quite a bit of location signals for each one of your locations. And then when you do that, you can also add like your brand plus location to like your account names, to your links, to your titles of your press release. And that's called co-occurrence. So that's another reason why I do multi-location pages. It's easier to get co-occurrence going when you do that. But so that's really quickly how I structure my local on page for single location versus multi-location. Once I'm actually into the actual optimization of stuff, the first thing we're going to do is run a core SEO page tuning report. Now, I'm not going to show you how to run it. I'm just going to show you what one looks like and then briefly go over what we can do with it. So this is the page tuning report that you get back from Quora, and you can run it for different search terms. So in this case, I ran it for web design, Hanover, PA. And what it comes back with are what they call match keywords. And they're words that Google is saying is related to our search term. And then what it does, it uses Spearman's and Pearson's, which are like basically it's calculus. All right, they use 2 different equations to figure out the significance of your different on-page elements based on who's currently ranking. So for example, just briefly, you can see it pulls out some different sites that are actually ranking for this. So here's the first result. Second, third is Amanta. Here's ours way back here. But what it tells you then is the different factors. And the higher the number here, the more likely that it's not a random factor. And you can see that they have little keys here. So this is interesting, but not really. It's a random factor. This does not look like a random factor. So when we start optimizing, we want to look at the things in the orange, and we want to look at what they're telling us that they're seeing the correlations between. And then we analyze that. It's very in-depth. And it actually breaks down the different zones. And it looks at so many different elements here. So it looks at HTML tags, heading tags, metas. It looks at words that are in bold. Remember, keyword prominence is a thing. So it looks at that. Looks at different words and keywords in your URL, in your alts. It looks at all this different information. It also gives you a list of variants. I know some experts say not to use LSI as a term, but basically it's other related words that they're finding. And then it's giving the correlation between them. Here's a pool. They pull out a bunch of results, and you can actually analyze that. But what I really like to do is look at the roadmap that they give you, and just go down through here and see what I can add and what I need to take out or adjust. And if you ever want to know like what something means, if you go back to your overview and you can click it, it'll take you back to a little explanation page that tells you what they're talking about. They look at so many different elements here. It's very, very interesting. So that's where we start our on page at, is to use this. And my on page assistant, he'll actually run this report, and then he'll go in and make little tweaks based on what this tells us. And that's the first part of it. All right. So once we get our page tuning done, the next thing that I like to look at is, obviously, I take special attention to the page title. Possibly one of the most important on-page elements is your page title. Again, I'm a big fan of co-occurrence. Basically what it means is just getting your brand associated with your keyword and your location terms. And the more often you do that on page and off page, the more likely that Google's going to start associating your brand with those terms. I like my main keyword to be in the page title, except if it's also in the URL, then I use a variation. Example, one of my page titles would be Digital Marketing SEO Hanover, PA, Get Found Online, and then I have the brand here. So I'm associating the brand with the location and with a term. Meta description. I definitely like to use my keywords in there. I like to add my location, and I design it to be to basically be clickbait. So here's an example of my meta. Find out how many new customers you're missing by not using the top online strategies, blah, blah. And I'm going to give you a copy of this PDF that you can download. And it's basically a step-by-step guide you can follow. H1 tag. Now, I know there's some debate out there, and just because a lot of people are using WordPress, I do myself, and I know a lot of themes on WordPress they'll wrap your page title in an H1 tag. So there's confusion whether you should add another H1 tag or not. I've done it both ways. All right. And I've found that neither of them is going to give you a negative factor as long as you're not like spamming and keyword stuffing. Obviously, I would only ever add one additional H1 tag. You don't need 10 of them. All right. But if it does, if the theme does wrap your page title in an H1, it won't hurt you to also add another H1 on the page as your page title or as your page heading. It won't hurt you, and it also won't hurt you to leave that out either. So I've done it both ways. I've had good results doing it both ways. When I do add an extra H1, I use a second keyword or category, a GMB category plus location. Example H1 tag, Hanover's top web design SEO agency. My second keyword being web design, Hanover web design. H2, mostly on my H2s, I usually do a variation of my niche keywords. I don't really add the locations into the H2. You don't need to overdo your location, especially in the H2. I use H2s to really start listing out some of the other services and the niches, the niche keywords that are super important. So you can see in this example, I'm listing out search engine marketing, online advertising. I hit web design again just because it was not in my page title, and it is an important keyword for this. The next one I do is GMB categories. And I add those to the page and I wrap them either in H2 or H3 tags, depending on what the theme looks like and how visually appealing it looks. But I make these prominent on my page. Okay, so keyword prominence. And I'll show you the example below. It makes more sense. So I'm using the category, and you can see it's in blue here. Here's my categories that are on my GMB listing for this. All right, internet marketing service, web designer, marketing agency, advertising agency. So what I do is I add them to a bulleted list. I set them in I think in this one I put them in H3 tags. But then I link these to the actual service pages. And in this instance, some of my service pages didn't quite fit exactly. So I didn't have a service page just about internet marketing service. I didn't have one just about advertising or marketing. So what I did was I associated them with another page. I have a page about SEO. So I made internet marketing service and SEO, and that links back to the SEO page. I did PPC marketing agency. That links to our PPC page. Facebook advertising agency links to our social page. You can see the strategy I use there. H3 element. Now on H3, this is where I start adding some geo-relevant modifiers combined with some keyword variations or long tails. So in this case, I used York and Adams County PPC and SEO marketing agency. It's more of a long tail term, secondary term here. And then I'm not using the actual city. I'm using more of the region, some of the region keywords for location. And then another example, read our reviews for Hanover website design and SEO. Picture alt text. Again, I use a keyword or variation, and I'll include a geo modifier in that as well. And there's an example. Not going to get super big on that because it's a very minor factor there. The next one that I like to do is a YouTube video embed below the fold. And I like to title the YouTube video up in YouTube as a keyword with the brand. So in this example, my video was called Web Design in Hanover, PA, and then the company name behind it. So we get, again, that instance of co-occurrence there, which is, I think, very super important when you're doing this. And plus, it's a YouTube video, which is great, right? So even though a bot will actually read the title of the video that's embedded on the site, it's actually part of YouTube too. So it's an off-site co-occurrence signal, which is great. The next thing is I like to put a map embed. I do either one. I like to use my map embeds, but you can also use a Google Places map or a driving directions map. Again, I like to title it with the co-occurrence, the brand, keyword, location. Make sure it's below the fold. And in this example, my map was Make My Business Boom, York and Adams PPC and SEO Marketing Agency. The next section, we really start talking about some geo-relevant signals on page. I think I might briefly jump over to the website so you can actually see this live. And then we'll dive in on another video about this geo-relevant stuff and why I do some of the stuff that I do. So let's just take a look at the website. So here's the website. It's old, but it's the only one I have available that I can actually do a real live demonstration with. Anything else I can't show, whether it's either client stuff or it's stuff that we're actually ranking or trying to build another brand or whatever. I'm not going to reveal some of that stuff. This is an older site of ours, and I'm going to show you these elements. So this theme, here's the page title. Let me just move this up so you can see it. There's our page title. It's long, but it's all up there. You can see our keyword, our location, and our brand is up there. So we get that co-occurrence going on. Now this theme publishes the page title here, and I'd have to go into the theme settings or PHP or something to edit that out. I just don't feel like doing it, so it's going to show up on the page too. It's not really a negative factor. It's more of maybe a visual factor. The next thing I have is an H1 tag. This is the actual content. And you can see we get our keyword in here with our city. The content, it hasn't been page tuned yet with Quora. It will. I did it a little bit out of order just because we have other stuff going on, and my assistant was a little busy today, and so it is what it is. We'll get it done eventually. Here's our video. You can see the web design and Hanover co-occurrence going on. It's below the fold. Here's an H2 tag. Again, in H2s, I like to try to keep those for service keywords or niche keywords. I don't really put the location in the H2. This is the GMB categories that link back to our service pages. So we have Internet Marketing Service, Website Designer, Marketing Agency, Advertising Agency. Then we get to a section that I kind of keep for the local relevance. This is where it's going to actually start. So we have our map embed titled the way I explained, but I actually put it like a H3 heading above it, where I get some of that local relevance right there. And then underneath, we get some address sections and some other sections that we're going to jump into the next video, and I'm going to go in depth on this because this is probably some of the most important stuff that we do, I think. So I'm going to stop here, and I'll start another video on this section. If you have any questions so far, hit us up at gmb@web20ranker.com. Send us an email or find me up on Facebook Messenger, send me a message. I'll answer any questions you have. Thanks.